Hi, my name is Shavonne. I am a photographer turned 3D artist from Singapore, and now I work on doing virtual models and creating them and putting them in different artworks, and it's so much fun for me, and it's something that I want to continue pursuing. So I've been a fashion and advertising photographer for more than a decade, and it was going so well. I got to work with so many different brands, so many different opportunities. I got to work with Sephora, Lancome. I was a guest photographer on Asia's Next Top Model, so it was going fantastic. And then COVID happened, and that changed things. And basically, what had happened was that I figured if I could not work with real models, I'll just make my own. And that was how I decided to go into creating 3D virtual models. And, I started creating them with the aim of going towards commercial clients, providing them with the opportunity to be like, hey, if you want virtual models for your campaigns and stuff, I have them. And then eventually NFTs came about. And so from there, I decided to use these models to create all these artworks that I would have loved to do in photography, but probably had issues with because there's a lot of real life issues that makes it hard to do certain things like having makeup move across a model's face or putting a model underwater or in space because they need oxygen. Lame. But now with these virtual models, I can really do anything I want. And so this is how I really just got into this space of just creating all these artworks with my virtual models, and they have been very well received. And yeah, that's basically it. So during my fashion photography career, obviously I had to come across a lot of different comp cards of models. I'll go to agencies, ask for who are the models they have available, so I want to photograph them. And they will give me all these comp cards, and these comp cards will show the faces of all the different models they have. And usually I realized that there were certain features and certain looks that I am generally just naturally more drawn towards, right? And not always am I able to work with the model I want, but now because I'm creating the model, I can really just make the model I want to work with, and I put them in the scene that I would have done if I got to work with a model that looked like her. So it's really cool. I really have such full control on the kind of model I want, whether she has freckles, she has moles, which are all things I really like in a model because I find this imperfections just so cool and so interesting. So now I'm able to do all that and put it in my model, and I also do things like, oh, I've always wanted to have blonde hair, but what a pain. So I just gave them the hairstyles and the hair color that I would love to have, but it's too much pain to handle. So it's kind of cool. I just do all the different things that I subconsciously like and put them on my models. So the transition from photography over to 3D has been actually really interesting. There were a lot of skill sets that were very transferable, such as the way I would compose my scene, how I would pose my models, the way I would light my models. These were all things that it just transferred so seamlessly over to 3D. Obviously, in 3D, I kind of had to have that learning curve of how do I even make the software work the way I wanted to? And that part was not as fun, there's just so much learning and involved. But, eventually after I crossed that curve and I was able to really play and really create, yeah, that was when I was able to really bring a lot of skill sets that I had into 3D, and I was able to do things that I would really have done in real life, but now in 3D with lighting. And the funny thing is just in real life when I do lighting for my scene, I have to carry all this equipment and I'll just set them up, and then by the time I'm done setting them up, I'm just oh my god, I'm tired, I want to go home. But in 3D, I can just kind of change the lighting setup anytime I want because it's really just a press of a button, just click, 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 and yes, let's set this huge light up there, and wait, never mind, take it down, and it just allowed me to experiment and explore just so much more because I could just change the lighting anytime I want. And yeah, it's just but yeah, there's a lot of skills, and if you look at my works, I find that my visual eye, as the style is very much influenced by the 10 years I did in photography. The way I see things, the way I've created the style I like, these were all also something that I could easily bring over to 3D. So coming to 3D, I was new to the medium itself, but I did bring a lot of skill sets along to it. So in 2020, I watched more YouTube tutorials than I ever thought I would in my life. It was surprising how productive I could be when I was stuck at home. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm just so grateful to all these people who are educators in the scene, right? Like, not only do they spend the time to learn, that they are also open to sharing their knowledge, which really helps people who are new to the scene to really just pick up things a little faster. And so I'm really, really thankful to them, because like all my knowledge just really came from the internet, which, just thinking about it is insane. But yeah, just lots and lots of tutorials and just practice. So the kind of softwares I use are basically, the main render software I'm using is Blender, which is free. And then like for my models, the base models, they come from Character Creator, but I bring them into ZBrush to do sculpting, to mold the feature to something I want, and then having texture added onto them. For the colors and everything, there's always Substance Painter, Photoshop, and then when I need clothes, then I'll use Marvelous Designer. So it is a range of softwares. It was a pain, yes, to learn everything in 1 year, but it was fun. And yeah, it's a lot of softwares. There's more, just not thinking of it right now. After Effects to put the videos together, I guess, but it's a lot of stuff. So like if I run out of ideas on things to do, I guess I just take a break. I mean, like you kind of forced to kind of take a break if you have nothing to run on, right? I guess. But on my downtime when I'm not creating, there's a lot of more like learning that I spend time to do, to like learn more like how I can make my models better, more techniques that I could possibly put in my works in the future. But when I'm taking a real break, the things I do is more like go to my garden and squish the bugs that are eating my plants. It's very therapeutic. So yeah, that. So I've had the question of like, oh, do you think 3D models, all these virtual models, would replace a real human model in the future? And my answer has always been no, because I believe that, there is something different about human model that a virtual model probably couldn't give, and vice versa. And I believe that like in different clients, they're gonna have different demands and different wants. And for a client who's perhaps a skincare brand, like having a virtual model kind of doesn't really make as much sense, because people are looking at this like campaign, they want to see themselves in it, right? Because like this human model uses this like soap, so if I use it, maybe my skin will be as good. But with virtual models, I guess there are gonna be brands that are like maybe more futuristic, more trend-setting, more modern, and they'll be like, yes, I want to use a virtual model because it fits the vibe of my brand more. So I believe it's more of giving clients options instead of replacing, because even then I feel like a client could come about and like, I want to have a virtual model and a real model together, like they could coexist together. So it's definitely more about giving options of available choices than taking away of like, no more human models, because I like good looking people still. They should exist as human models. So I got into the NFT space very early last year, about February 2021. And, it was just so interesting, because I think that was about the time where I was creating my virtual models, and they were finally at a stage where I did not hate them. I was like, okay, like maybe I could use them to create some artworks now. And that was when NFTs came about, and it just felt like such an interesting medium where I could have my work shown to people and perhaps actually an alternative stream of income, right? So the way I do anything is I just kind of go headfirst into it, kind of the same way I did 3D, right? I just like, whoa, let's do that. And so when I got into NFTs, it was the same thing. I just went all in. And it's been cool. Like, I think for me, I was obviously very fortunate that I was able to sell some of the works, and the feedback have always been very flattering, very good for my ego. And so like I've been able to continue really building, and NFTs had allowed me to start creating works without needing about thinking about clients, which meant that I really started experimenting in the 3D realm in a way that I wanted to. Like perhaps like I would be like, I want to put my model in space. Then I had to go and figure out how to make space, or underwater, like what does it mean to make a 3D scene look underwater. So I was really learning according to the things I wanted to do instead of like perhaps a very traditional pipeline. And of course this means that now there are certain things that are very basic that I still have no idea how to do, but I don't think I need it. And if I don't need to learn how to model a cup, I guess it's fine. But yeah, like it's been so much exploration and experimentation for me that I just had so much fun. And I've met so many people in the NFT scene. I believe like I have this community called NFT Asia, which is really just a bunch of Asian artists, who are interested in NFTs. And it's just so cool because I get to see all these artists from all around Asia, or Asian countries, Asian artists in other countries where, I would have never seen their artworks before. And some of them, they come from all these third world countries where like there isn't even an art market. But because of NFTs, they have been able to put their art on a global market to be seen. And I just think that's so cool and so exciting because there's just so much more exposure to all these artists. And for me to be able to see their work and also wider than the NFT Asia community to be able to be exposed to all these artists. Like I talk to a friend now who does Marvel concept art, which to me is just what. Okay, that's insane. But like now I can call him a friend, So it's stuff like that that's just like the community is so much fun. The art is so much fun for me because I get to experiment. It's a lot of freedom. So it's a very positive experience for me. So I did this project called Love is Love, where basically I had, at this point of time, I had all these different virtual models that I had created. And, there was one day I was just experimenting. So I put two models in a kissing pose. I was like, isn't that adorable? So sweet. And I was like, this looks really nice. And then I thought to myself, wait, I have a few more models. Let's just swap them out, see how it looks, which one matches the best. And as I was just swapping them out, I was like, oh my God, they all look good. And, it then also struck me that like, oh wait, this could be a really interesting generative idea. And at this time, for me, it was just, I was already looking to do more experimentation with like NFTs, right? So it just felt like such a perfect moment. And also for me, I do have the belief that love is love. I feel like people should be able to be with whoever they want as long as there's consent. And so with this idea and this belief in place, I thought, okay, let's do a generative project called Love is Love, where I would have, in the end minute image, I would have two people and they're, in a near kissing pose. And the generation will be based on whether it's female with male, of the different skin colors, skin tones, features, hairstyles, and body size. So like, it's just a huge range of people. And, it was just so much fun. And basically what I had done with the project was that when people were going to buy it, there were 500 pieces. And when people were going to buy it, they could actually influence the art. Because personally, for me, I've always believed that people like the art that they can kind of relate to or see themselves in. So I thought, okay, like, what if I allowed them to actually influence the art in a way that would be something related to them? So what I did was they were able to choose the gender and the sexuality of the end result they wanted. And so perhaps if somebody chose like female and gay, then they will get a female-female combination, or like male and straight, then it will be a female-male or male-female combination. And so it was really just like, oh, it's a survey, like go choose what you want. But the end results were just so interesting that people were able to choose the end results they kind of wanted, even though there was still randomization in it. Yeah, the whole project was just so much fun, and I was actually expecting to like get a bit of like backlash because like some people don't believe that love is love, right? But it's been surprising that I haven't really actually. Like everybody has been so supportive. It's been like the feedback has always been good. So yeah, I think I remember that project very, very fondly. To be honest, I always found this question a little hard to answer because I've never been a man in this industry, so I don't actually know the real difference between a man and a woman in this industry. But I guess for me, it's just okay. Yes, there are people who kind of like, oh, don't really pay attention to women, blah blah blah. But I feel like as the years are passing by, it's getting to be a bit more of a minority point of view. People are calling out on others if they are sexist. So I feel like as a woman in this industry, in a way, you do have to fight for your opportunities a bit more. But on the good side is you naturally kind of stand out because you're already a minority, right? So But if I'm also completely honest, I've not been in this specific industry of like motion design, 3D for very long. But I'm speaking for more of like when I was in photography, it was also a very male-dominated industry. But I think it's you kind of have to take the good of the bad, I guess. Like the bad is just like when I had photography assistants, people would think that here's the photographer and I'm the assistant. But you just prove yourself, I guess. Do good work. Make sure people notice you. And then also take the opportunity of like sometimes there are waves of like, oh, let's support the women. And I'll be like, oh, yay, that's me. Support me, please. And just ride the wave with it, I guess. So, yeah. So yesterday I was in the event NFT in America, and it was just so much fun. For me, I'm from Singapore, right? So I haven't been able to meet a lot of people that I have gotten to know in the NFT scene for the past year. And so like yesterday, I got to hear them talk. I got to hear them talk about their work, and then I got to talk to them, and it was cool because like they're now real people. Like they're not just like little personas on Twitter, but like they're real human beings. I have a context of this person, and it was just so much fun. I feel like people always talk about, oh, the future is going to be virtual, which I do believe that very much the world is going towards a very virtual direction. And then they talk about the fear of like, oh, people will lose the human touch. But, I feel like we've all, through last year, like I've made so much friendships through just virtually, online, on Twitter. But there's always the saying of like, oh my God, I just cannot wait to meet you in real life. So I feel like, there's just something that cannot be replaced with the physical meeting, being with this person, giving them a hug, just talking to them. It's just so different. And I really enjoyed being able to do that yesterday. And, also just learning from them, like all these artists, they post on Twitter, but like on Twitter, there's like, a maximum amount of characters, so to explain yourself. But I got to listen to them talk about, what they believed in, their plans for the future, the techniques they do with their art, or like how they saw the NFT scene, and it was just very eye-opening for me. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you. I mean, I think it's very flattering to be here. I've not been in 3D for very, very long at all. And I've seen the speakers and the speaker list, and I've known that like the people who come here, I'm just like, oh my God, thanks. Like when Cook invited me, I think my answer was like, oh my God, what? Yes, of course. So so yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.